First contact gone wrong. Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Craxian Empire stood motionless before the grand observation window of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. His iridescent scales reflected the distant starlight as he contemplated the vastness of space before him. The Craxian Empire had conquered 17 species across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, each victory adding to their reputation as the undisputed masters of space warfare. Their technological superiority was unquestioned, their tactical prowess legendary. Until today. The anomaly appeared at the edge of their long-range sensors, a solitary vessel, approximately the size of a medium transport ship, hovering near the remnants of an ancient asteroid belt. Its design was unlike anything in their extensive database, with clean lines and a dark hull that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Supreme Commander, his first officer, Zarak, approached with careful steps. The unknown vessel appears to be a research vessel of some kind. We're detecting minimal weapons signatures, but she hesitated, her secondary breathing gills fluttering with uncertainty. Speak freely, First Officer, Vexthor commanded, his attention still fixed on the distant stars. The energy readings are impossible. Our sensors can't penetrate their hull, and their power signature keeps shifting. As if. She paused again, searching for the right words, as if the ship is breathing. Vexthor's inner eyelids flickered with interest. In 3 centuries of service, he had never heard his first officer sound so uncertain. Composition of their hull. Unknown, sir. It appears to be some form of adaptive material we've never encountered before. But what's most concerning is their reaction to our presence, or rather, their lack of reaction. Indeed, the vessel had made no attempt to flee or communicate since its discovery. It simply continued its apparent research mission, scanning the asteroid field with methodical precision. Such behavior was unprecedented. Every species they had encountered had either immediately attempted diplomatic contact or fled in terror upon seeing a Craxian battle fleet. Send the standard greeting, Vexthor ordered. Let's see how they respond to our generosity. The standard greeting was a masterpiece of psychological warfare, refined over centuries of first contact scenarios. It began with a demonstration of power, a single shot from their tertiary weapons array that would detonate safely distant from the target vessel, followed by a message offering protection and vassalage under the benevolent Craxian Empire. The weapons officer executed the command with practiced precision. A burst of plasma energy arced through space, detonating in a brilliant display of power several thousand kilometers from the unknown vessel. Nothing happened. The vessel continued its work as if nothing had occurred. No panic, no diplomatic responses, no attempts at evasive maneuvers. Send it again, Vexthor commanded, a note of irritation creeping into his usually controlled voice. This time, closer. The second shot was fired, this time detonating much nearer to the vessel. The explosion should have at least disrupted their sensors, yet they continued their methodical work without pause. Then, something changed. The dark hull of the vessel seemed to ripple, like the surface of a liquid disturbed by a gentle breeze. A communication request pinged their systems, text only. UNRV Galileo acknowledges your greeting, Craxian vessel. Please be advised that any further weapons discharge within 500,000 kilometers of this research operation will be considered an act of hostility and responded to accordingly. We are conducting delicate measurements. Your cooperation is appreciated. The bridge fell silent. No species had ever dared to issue warnings to a Craxian battle fleet. Vexthor felt his scales bristle with a mixture of anger and fascination. Scan for reinforcements, he ordered. No species would dare. Sir, the sensor officer's voice cracked with alarm. Multiple energy signatures appearing throughout the asteroid field. They were there all along, sir, somehow masked from our sensors. The dark hull of the research vessel rippled again, and this time, the transformation was complete. What had appeared to be a simple research vessel now bristled with weapons arrays that had been perfectly concealed beneath its adaptive hull. The asteroid field itself seemed to come alive as dozens of smaller vessels shimmered into view, their hulls made of the same light-absorbing material. A new message appeared on their screens. UNRV Galileo to Craxian vessel. Since you seem interested in our research, allow us to share our findings. We've been studying the tactical advantages of this asteroid field for the past 6 months. Would you like to see our conclusions? You have 30 seconds to withdraw beyond the 500,000-kilometer marker. Your cooperation is still appreciated. For the first time in his long career, Supreme Commander Vexthor felt a sensation he had never experienced before: doubt. The humans, as they would later learn this species was called, hadn't been conducting research on the asteroid field. They had been preparing it. As his tactical officer reported multiple squadrons of smaller craft emerging from carefully hidden positions throughout the asteroid field, Vexthor realized that this encounter would change everything. The Craxian Empire had finally met a species that not only matched their technological prowess, but had surpassed it in ways they hadn't even imagined possible. The game had changed, and the first move had been made long before they even knew they were playing. The Ghost Protocol. Captain Elena Santos of the UNRV Galileo watched the Craxian fleet through enhanced tactical displays, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic readouts surrounding her command chair. 20 years of naval intelligence work had prepared her for this moment, but the stakes were higher than anything she'd encountered before. They're maintaining position just outside the marker, Captain. Lieutenant Park reported from the tactical station. Their weapon systems are powered but not targeting. They seem confused. A slight smile crossed Elena's face. Confusion was exactly what they had been aiming for. Humanity had learned long ago that the best way to win a war was to prevent it from starting. The Ghost Protocol, developed over decades of preparation for first contact, was their masterpiece of strategic deterrence. Status of the field? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. Her crew had drilled this scenario countless times. All units report ready, Commander Chen replied from his exo station. Quantum mines are armed but dormant. Drone swarms are in position. The Craxian sensors are still trying to get a read on our actual numbers. He paused, checking another readout. They think we have 60 ships hidden in the field. The actual number was 12, but the sophisticated quantum ghost generators they'd installed throughout the asteroid field were doing their job, creating phantom energy signatures that made their small force appear much larger. It was an elegant solution to an age-old problem: how to protect human space with limited resources. The main view screen showed the massive Craxian flagship, its crystalline hull design speaking of a civilization that had never needed to hide. Their entire technological development had focused on overwhelming force rather than subtlety. It was a common pattern among species that evolved as apex predators. Captain, Lieutenant Park's voice took on a more urgent tone. They're launching probe drones. Looks like they're trying to map the field manually. Elena nodded. It was an obvious move, one they'd prepared for. Initiate Echo Protocol. Let's show them why we named this operation Ghost Dance. Throughout the asteroid field, carefully hidden quantum resonators activated. The probe drone sensors would detect solid objects where there were none, and empty space where asteroids actually existed. Each time they adjusted their scanning frequencies, they would get different results. It was like trying to map a room full of mirrors while wearing kaleidoscope glasses. A new message appeared from the Craxian flagship. Your deception is noted. The Craxian Empire does not tolerate technological subterfuge. You will power down your systems and prepare for inspection, or face immediate consequences. They're not used to being in this position, Commander Chen observed. Their tactical doctrine shows they've always relied on superior numbers and firepower. This is probably the first time they've faced an enemy they can't properly assess. Elena's response was interrupted by a priority alert. The Craxian flagship had launched a full squadron of fighter craft, presumably hoping to force a response that would reveal their true capabilities. "Let them come," Elena ordered. "Activate the corridor." As the Caraxian fighters approached, specific sections of the asteroid field seemed to clear, offering them an obvious path through the chaos. It was another illusion, of course. The fighters were being subtly herded into positions that would give them the worst possible tactical advantage, while making them feel like they were in control. "Fighter squadron is advancing through the corridor," Park reported. "Their weapons are hot." Elena watched the fighters approach on her tactical display. The Caraxians were about to learn another lesson about human warfare. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon was an enemy's own confidence. "They're scanning the asteroids directly now," Chen reported. "Trying to map." "Wait." He looked up from his console, eyes wide. "They're receiving our echo signals. Their fighters are adjusting course based on false data." The fighter squadron, responding to sensor data that showed clear paths where there were actually asteroids, and asteroids where there was clear space, began to break formation. Their attempted show of force was quickly turning into a demonstration of confusion as they tried to navigate what appeared to be an impossibly shifting landscape. "Captain," Park's voice was tight with controlled excitement. "The flagship is powering up their main weapons array. They're not aiming at us. They're targeting their own fighters. I think they believe some of them have been compromised." The Caraxian command had realized something was wrong with their fighters' behavior and had drawn the worst possible conclusion. Rather than admit their sensors were being fooled, they assumed their fighters had been taken over by some unknown human technology. Elena keyed her comm. "All ships, maintain position. Let them come to their own conclusions." She turned to her XO. "Commander Chen, prepare a message for the Caraxian flagship. Tell them that any weapons discharge within the field will trigger an automated defense response. Let them interpret that however they want." The message was sent, and the effect was immediate. The Caraxian flagship powered down their weapons, but not before destroying 3 of their own fighters. The remaining fighters, clearly receiving recall orders, attempted to retreat but found their return path just as confusing as their advance. "Their flagship is requesting direct communication," Park announced. "Video format." Elena straightened in her chair. This was the crucial moment. Everything they had done so far was designed to lead to this conversation. The Caraxians needed to understand that they weren't dealing with just another conquest. They were facing an entirely new kind of adversary. "Put them through," she ordered. "Let's show them what happens when you push humanity into developing defensive technologies. Sometimes the best defense is making your enemy defeat themselves." The main screen flickered to life, revealing Supreme Commander Vexthor. His scales had lost some of their luster, and his posture spoke of barely contained fury. Elena allowed herself a small smile. The Ghost Protocol had worked exactly as designed, and now it was time for the real negotiations to begin. Web of Deception. Supreme Commander Vexthor's image dominated the main screen of the Galileo's bridge. His reptilian features set in what Elena assumed was an expression of carefully controlled rage. The translation software interpreted his subsonic frequencies as he spoke, a reminder that they were dealing with a truly alien psychology. "You have manipulated our sensors, confused our fighters, and made mockery of the Empire's might." Vexthor's translated voice carried both anger and something else, curiosity. "Yet you haven't fired a single shot. Why?" Elena leaned forward in her chair. "Commander Vexthor, humanity has studied the stars for centuries before achieving spaceflight. We knew we weren't alone, and we knew that first contact would likely be with a species that had already established dominion over local space. So we ask ourselves, how does a younger civilization survive an encounter with an established empire?" She gestured, and a holographic display appeared between them, showing the asteroid field from multiple angles. The answer wasn't to build bigger ships or more powerful weapons. It was to change the rules of engagement entirely. As if on cue, new energy signatures began appearing throughout nearby space, not just in the asteroid field, but in seemingly empty sectors all around the Caraxian fleet. Hidden quantum buoys, dormant for months, activated in sequence, each one broadcasting signatures that mimic different classes of human vessels. Impossible, one of Vexthor's officers hissed in the background. Their fleet, it's everywhere. How long have they been here? Elena allowed herself a thin smile. The real question, Commander, isn't how long we've been here. It's how long we've been everywhere else. She nodded to Commander Chin, who initiated the next phase of their revelation. Throughout Craxian space, automated probes that had been lying dormant for years began activating, each one broadcasting the signature of a human battle group. The probes had been delivered by automated stealth ships, piece by piece, assembled in the void by robotic constructors that were smaller than most scanner arrays could detect. At this moment, Elena continued, your Empire's sensor networks are detecting what appear to be human fleet movements near 17 of your major colony worlds. Your military command is likely in chaos, trying to determine if these are real ships or more of our deceptions. They're asking themselves, how many of these signals are genuine threats? How long have humans been watching? How did we miss this? Vexthor's scales rippled with what might have been grudging admiration. You've been preparing for this encounter. For generations, Elena confirmed. While your empire expanded through force, humanity expanded through shadows. We have no interest in conquest, Commander. We simply ensured that any attempt to conquer us would be too costly to contemplate. The Craxian commander's inner eyelids flickered rapidly as he processed this information. His next words carried a different tone. Less imperial command, more professional respect. The sensor ghosts near our colonies, they're not all false signals, are they? No, Elena admitted. Some are real ships, some are automated drones, some are simply quantum echoes. But you have no way of knowing which is which without committing forces to investigate each one. Forces you can't spare with your fleet tied up here. A new alert flashed on Elena's display. Right on schedule, the Craxian military networks were lighting up with reports of unusual activity near their supposedly secret shipyards. More probes activating, more phantom fleets appearing. Years of careful preparation were paying off in a cascading series of strategic revelations. Your civilization is younger than ours, Vexthor observed. Your ships, while impressive, are fewer in number. Yet you've managed to turn our every advantage against us. Our sensor networks have become a liability, our strategic doctrine useless against an enemy we can't properly detect or count. Elena nodded. Humanity learned early that we couldn't match the established powers of the galaxy ship for ship. So we developed technologies and strategies that made numerical superiority irrelevant. Our ships don't just hide, Commander. They lie. Every human vessel broadcasts false sensor data about its capabilities, size, and purpose. Even now, you're not seeing my ship's true configuration. As if to demonstrate her point, the Galileo's hull rippled again, its apparent structure shifting like a mirage. Weapon ports appeared and disappeared. Sensor arrays seemed to relocate, and the very size of the vessel appeared to fluctuate. The Galileo's actual configuration, Elena explained, is something even my crew doesn't know. Every officer sees a different tactical display, each containing elements of truth mixed with carefully crafted deceptions. In the event of capture, no single crew member could reveal our true capabilities because none of us has access to the complete picture. Vexthor was silent for a long moment, his species equivalent of a deep breath visible in the movement of his throat scales. You've turned deception into an art form, he said finally. But surely you realize that revealing these capabilities to us removes their effectiveness. Elena's smile broadened slightly. Does it? How do you know that anything I've just told you is true? Perhaps this entire confrontation has been an elaborate deception. Perhaps we wanted you to think you've discovered the extent of our capabilities. After all, Commander isn't the perfect deception, one where your opponent believes they've finally seen through your lies. The implications hung in space between them. Every piece of information humanity had revealed could itself be part of a deeper deception. The Craxian Empire faced a strategic nightmare, an adversary that had turned uncertainty itself into a weapon. You leave us with no acceptable military options, Vex Thor acknowledged, his voice carrying both frustration and respect. That was the idea, Elena replied. Now shall we discuss more productive alternatives to conflict? Breaking point. The tension on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion was palpable as Supreme Commander Vex Thor faced his assembled command staff. The holographic displays around them showed a galaxy that had suddenly become far more complex than they had ever imagined. Multiple signals of human fleet movements continued to appear and disappear throughout Craxian space, each one demanding a response they couldn't afford to give. The High Council demands immediate action, Fleet Commander Ixal announced, his scales flushed with anger. We cannot allow these humans to continue this mockery of our power. We should strike now, with everything we have. Vex Thor's tail twitched in irritation. And strike at what, exactly? We've lost 3 fighters to our own weapons because we couldn't tell illusion from reality. How many capital ships would you have me sacrifice to learn which of these human signals are real threats? On the main tactical display, another cluster of signatures appeared near one of their core worlds. Real or false, each new contact forced them to divert resources, spreading their fleet thinner and thinner. Supreme Commander, his intelligence officer, Naira, spoke up. Her scales were a pale shade of blue, indicating deep thought. I've been analyzing the human captain's words. There's something we're missing. Their strategy goes beyond mere tactical deception. Before she could continue, a priority alert flashed across all screens. The Craxian colony world of Vex Thor's hatching, Carthaxis Prime, was reporting unusual activity in its orbital shipyards. Workers were discovering hidden quantum resonators embedded in supposedly secure facilities, devices that had been there for years, gathering data, waiting for this moment. Impossible, Ixal breathed. Those shipyards are our most secure installation. The genetic scanners alone were designed to detect known species, Naira interrupted. But what if the humans never sent organic agents at all? Those resonators could have been planted by devices smaller than our sensors were calibrated to detect. The implications were staggering. Not only had humans penetrated their most secure facilities, but they had done so without triggering any of the biological or technological safeguards the Empire relied upon. A new transmission came through, this time from the human vessel Galileo. Captain Santos appeared on screen, her expression neutral but confident. Commander Vex Thor, I trust you've had time to consider your situation. Perhaps now would be a good time to discuss the trade proposal we prepared. Trade proposal? Ixal sputtered. You dare to. Send it through, Vex Thor commanded, silencing his subordinate with a gesture. The document that appeared on their screens was comprehensive. The humans were offering technological exchange programs, trade routes, and cultural cooperation. But what caught Vex Thor's attention were the defensive protocols they proposed: mutual recognition of territories, joint patrols of border regions, and shared responsibility for maintaining peace in disputed sectors. This isn't a surrender document, Naira observed, her analytical mind quickly grasping the implications. They're offering us partnership. Partnership. Ixal's scales flushed darker. With a species that has deceived and humiliated us. With a species, Vex Thor corrected, that could have struck at any time in the past several years, but chose instead to force us to the negotiating table. A species that, despite our aggressive approach, hasn't fired a single shot. The internal communication system chimed. Reports were flooding in from across the Empire. More quantum resonators being discovered in critical installations. Phantom fleet signatures appearing and disappearing near vital trade routes. The entire defense network was approaching paralysis, unable to distinguish real threats from illusions. The humans don't want to defeat us, Naira realized aloud. They want to change us. This entire confrontation, it's not about military victory. It's about forcing us to evolve beyond our reliance on brute force. Vex Thor studied the trade proposal again. The humans had included detailed analyses of previous Craxian conquests, pointing out the inefficiencies of maintaining an empire through force alone. Their alternative model proposed a cooperative framework that would actually increase the empire's influence through peaceful means. "They're offering us a way to save face," he said finally. "A way to transform our defeat into an opportunity for growth." "The High Council will never accept this," Ixal warned. "Our entire society is built on—" "Our society," Vex Thor interrupted, "is built on adaptation. We became strong by overcoming challenges. Now we face perhaps our greatest challenge, learning to be strong without requiring others to be weak." He turned to face the human captain's image. "You never needed the resonators or the phantom fleets, did you? They were just props in a demonstration." Elena Santos smiled slightly. "The most effective way to change a society is to make it believe change was its own idea. We simply created conditions where the Craxian Empire's best interests aligned with peace." A new alert sounded. The High Council was demanding immediate communication. Vex Thor knew that the next few hours would determine not just the outcome of this confrontation, but the future of his civilization. The humans had given them no choice but to evolve, and they had done it without firing a single shot. "The Council may resist," he told Santos, "but they cannot deny the reality you've shown us. We've built an empire on the assumption that power flows from the barrel of a gun. You've demonstrated that true power lies in making the gun unnecessary." "That," Elena replied, "is exactly what we were hoping you'd understand." Dawn of understanding. 3 months after the standoff in the asteroid field, Captain Elena Santos stood in the observation dome of Harmony Station, watching as ships from both civilizations moved through the newly established neutral trade zone. The massive Craxian cruisers, with their crystalline hulls catching starlight, now shared space with sleek human vessels. It was a sight few would have thought possible just a short time ago. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Admiral Chen, recently promoted after the success of Operation Ghost Dance, joined her at the window. "The Craxian ship designers are already incorporating some of our adaptive camouflage concepts into their new vessels, though they insist on making them more visible." Elena smiled. "They're adapting while maintaining their cultural identity. That's exactly what we hoped for." The aftermath of their confrontation had rippled through both civilizations. The Craxian High Council, after hours of heated debate, had accepted the reality of their situation. But what had started as a reluctant acceptance of necessity had evolved into genuine interest in human approaches to technology and strategy. "The latest reports from the Cultural Exchange Program are encouraging," Chen said, handing her a datapad. "The younger generation of Craxian military officers are particularly eager to learn our methodologies. They see the value in subtlety now." Elena scrolled through the report. The transformation within the Craxian Empire had been remarkable. Their society, long built around displays of overwhelming force, was learning to appreciate the power of restraint. The quantum resonators, which had caused such alarm during the confrontation, were now being studied and improved upon through joint research projects. "And what about the holdouts?" she asked, thinking of Fleet Commander Ixal and his hardline supporters. "Diminishing in influence daily," Chen replied, "especially after the Protectorate incident last week." The incident he referred to had proved the value of their new alliance. The hostile species, believing the Craxian Empire weakened by its peace with humanity, had attempted to raid a border colony. They had encountered a defense system that combined Craxian power with human guile. Phantom fleets that became terrifyingly real at the crucial moment, and real ships that vanished like ghosts when targeted. Supreme Commander Vex Thor's report to the High Council called it a perfect synthesis of strength and subtlety. Chen added, "The raiders never even fired a shot before retreating." A group of Craxian officers entered the observation dome, led by Naira, now serving as Chief of Joint Strategic Operations. The former intelligence officer had become one of the strongest advocates for human Craxian cooperation, her analytical mind quickly grasping the potential of combining both civilizations' approaches. "Captain Santos," Naira greeted her, Scales shifting in what Elena had learned was an expression of respect. The latest simulation results are impressive. The integration of Craxian battle doctrines with human deception strategies has produced capabilities neither of our species could have achieved alone. That's what we hoped for, Elena replied. Though I admit, we didn't expect the cultural exchange to proceed quite so quickly. Naira's scales rippled with amusement. Your strategy forced us to confront our own limitations. Once we moved past our initial resistance, the benefits became clear. Though I must ask, how much of this was planned? The resonators, the phantom fleets, the trade proposals. How long was humanity preparing for this moment? Elena shared a glance with Admiral Chen before responding. Would you believe me if I told you? Ah. Naira's scales shifted to a shade indicating understanding. You're still maintaining uncertainty as a strategic asset. Wise. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert. A new alien signal had been detected at the edge of joint-controlled space, a massive fleet of unknown configuration. Both human and Craxian officers moved to their stations with practiced efficiency. Multiple capital ships, one of the Craxian officers reported. Energy signatures suggest significant military capability. They're transmitting first contact protocols. Elena watched as Supreme Commander Vexthor's image appeared on the main screen, his scales now bearing the markings of his new role as Joint Forces Commander. Captain Santos, he greeted her. Shall we show our new friends the benefits of cooperation? Elena nodded, already seeing the strategy unfold. The unknown fleet would encounter neither human guile alone, nor Craxian might, but a seamless integration of both. They would learn, as the galaxy was learning, that the most powerful force wasn't weapons or deception, but the synthesis of different strengths. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Operation Shared Wisdom is now in effect. Throughout the joint defense zone, human and Craxian ships began moving in perfect coordination. Phantom signals merged with real vessels, creating a defensive display that was both awe-inspiring and impossible to accurately assess. The message to the galaxy was clear. The era of single-species dominance was over. As she watched the operation unfold, Elena reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had achieved its goal not through conquest or submission, but by forcing a powerful empire to recognize the value of change. The galaxy was transforming, one civilization at a time, proving that the most profound victories were won not through destruction, but through understanding. Send our standard greeting to the unknown fleet, she commanded. Let's show them what humanity and the Craxian Empire can accomplish together. The stars seemed to shimmer as their joint fleet moved into position, a perfect blend of power and subtlety, strength and wisdom. The next chapter in their shared history was about to begin.